Helen came into marriage carrying hope the way women carried calabashes on their heads, believing nothing would spill it. She married Moses with the faith that effort and love could grow into abundance. Moses was already known in the city, a big trader whose drink store stood proud and loud, stacked with bottles that glittered under the sun. People greeted him with respect, and his name carried weight in the markets and motor parks. To many, Helen was lucky. To herself, she was determined. Children came quickly, one after another, as if heaven trusted her strength more than her comfort. 8 children in total, 6 girls and 2 boys, each arriving with cries that sounded like both a blessing and a warning. Her body barely rested between births, yet her heart expanded endlessly. Motherhood did not frighten her. What frightened her was the thought of her children lacking what they deserved. Worry was not gentle to poor women, and it was even harsher to women whose husbands believed responsibility ended at providing for themselves. Though Moses owned a flourishing drink store, Helen learned early that wealth in a home could still feel like poverty when generosity was absent. The city roared with life, buses honking, traders shouting, the smell of fuel and fried food mixing in the air, and in that noise, Helen's own struggle quietly grew. She worked before dawn and rested long after night had swallowed the streets. Farming became her first refuge. With bare hands hardened by soil, she planted, weeded, harvested, and carried produce back home with sweat soaking her wrapper. When farming alone could not stretch far enough, she cooked food and sold it on the streets of Warri, walking long distances with trays balanced expertly, her feet swollen, her back aching, her spirit unbroken. Hunger was an enemy she refused to allow near her children. Her children were her happiness, the center of her universe, the reason she woke each morning with resolve instead of bitterness. In their laughter she found rest. In their sleep she found purpose. Even exhaustion softened when she watched them eat. She believed fiercely that children did not ask to be born and therefore deserved the very best life could offer, no matter the cost to the one who birthed them. When the needs of school fees and feeding pressed heavily, Helen would turn to Moses, believing reason and compassion might still live in him. But what met her was cold comparison and dismissal. He saw children on the street hawking under the sun and measured his own children against them, reducing their worth to survival instead of possibility. To him, suffering was a lesson, and hunger was character building. He believed hardship would shape them better than comfort ever could. Helen refused this thinking with every fiber of her being. She would not allow her children to be taught by pain when love could educate them better. She rebuked the idea that suffering was necessary for greatness. In her heart, she carried a prophecy she repeated like a prayer, that her children would rise above circumstances, that they would become the best, that they would succeed and make her a proud mother. Even when her body trembled with fatigue, her faith never shook. God seemed to honor her resolve. Somehow, despite the lack of support, her children never truly lacked. Meals appeared even when resources were thin. School fees were paid, always complete. Shoes were worn until the soles cried out, yet new ones came just in time. Helen gave without counting the cost, pouring herself out until there was little left of her except love. Time passed, and with it came a small miracle. Helen secured a shop. It was not grand, but it was hers. From that space, she began a kerosene business. The smell of fuel clung to her clothes, her hands, her hair, but she wore it like perfume because it meant progress. Customers came steadily, and the money, though modest at first, was consistent. Slowly, her life shifted from mere survival to careful planning. The kerosene business grew beyond expectation. What started as a single shop expanded into more opportunities, more income, more stability. For the first time, Helen could breathe without fear. She bought her children things she once only dreamed of giving them: better clothes, proper school materials, food that did not need to be rationed. She placed them in good schools, the kind people admired from afar, because she believed environment shaped destiny. Her children flourished under the weight of her sacrifice. They grew taller, stronger, more confident. Education opened their minds, and hope sharpened their dreams. Helen watched them closely, her heart swelling with pride at every achievement, no matter how small. She made sure they lacked nothing, not because she wanted to spoil them, but because she wanted them to know they were worthy of abundance. Years rolled into decades, and Helen succeeded in what many said was impossible. She raised 8 children from fragile infancy into adulthood almost entirely on her own. Her hands bore the scars of labor, her face carried lines etched by worry and perseverance, but her eyes still shone with purpose. She had endured storms that would have broken many, yet she stood firm, anchored by love. With savings from her kerosene business, Helen bought a car, one of the best. She did not want herself and her children trekking long distances under harsh sun or heavy rain. Each mile saved felt like another prayer answered. In that car, she saw proof that hard work could rewrite destiny. As adulthood approached her children one by one, life unfolded unevenly, as it often does. The 2 eldest daughters graduated from the university, carrying certificates that promised opportunity but delivered waiting. Jobs did not come immediately. Instead of despair, they returned home and joined their mother in the kerosene business, grateful for the foundation she had built and eager to support her. The 3rd daughter traveled to Ghana to learn how to prepare international dishes, expanding her skills beyond borders. The 4th child, a boy, entered marine school, chasing a future tied to water and movement. The 5th prepared diligently for WAEC, his dreams still tender and forming. The younger ones followed behind, watching, learning, hoping. Helen was happy, not because everything had fallen perfectly into place, but because progress was visible. Her children had not yet become what she envisioned, but they were moving forward, step by step. She believed deeply that greatness was a process, not an event, and that patience would eventually yield fruit. In her quiet moments, she imagined the day each child would stand strong in society, fulfilled and respected. Joy and Blessing, now graduates, took on more responsibility, helping manage additional kerosene stores. Darlington completed marine school but faced the cruel silence of unemployment. Kate, struggling in Ghana, began to feel the weight of hardship pressing against her spirit. When she returned home at her mother's urging, it was not defeat, it was strategy. Emanina believed setbacks were not endings, only redirections. But life, unpredictable and unsentimental, shifted again. The kerosene business that once sustained them began to fade. Demand dropped. Profits shrank. The money that once stretched far enough no longer held the family together. Emanina felt the familiar fear creeping back, the same fear she thought she had defeated years ago. Still, surrender was not in her nature. And so, the family prepared for yet another turn in their journey, one that would test not only their resilience, but their faith, their unity, and the meaning of the sacrifices Helen had made. What do you think will happen next? Please drop your thoughts in the comment section.